And so I didn't get to them. But I plan to have a big giveaway for February.
Oh.
Yeah, and it starts now. So instead of sending a DM, I'm going to make a post this week.
Okay.
And so follow me on Instagram at The Kristen Cho. KRISTENCHO, and then look for the post, and then you can leave your comments there and let me know if you want one.
Exciting.
Ooh, it's exciting. It's going to be a big one.
What is there? How long do they have? How long to reply to the post?
Well, I will mention all of that on the post.
Okay.
So keep your eyes peeled.
Check every
Check
single
it out.
day.
That's right. Okay, so we have a food dialogue for you, and the topic for the food dialogue this month is the cooking class. And the subtitle is, That Must Have Been a Sharp Knife. Now, Cyrus cut his hand with a knife. Okay? That's always painful. When you get when you're cooking.
Yeah.
And you just kind of slice and you don't even realize that it's cut.
And then,
Isn't it true? You don't even realize, and then later you're like, ow, something's not right. And then you realize you cut your finger. Okay. So, 요리 수업, 그거 날카로운 칼이었나 보다. Okay, so it must have been a sharp knife. Here are some expressions that we're going to cover. Hands-on.
Hands-on is whenever you are actively doing something while you are learning or while you are teaching.
Right.
You're not just saying words, you're doing some kind of movement or action along with it.
Right. It's literally, and sometimes it literally can be using your hands.
Yes.
If you say on the contrary.
On the contrary is when you say, no, it is the opposite of what you think.
Okay. Right. And last one, this is a good one, a ringing endorsement. So, ringing like R-I-N-G-I-N-G.
Yeah. Like a bell. Ding, dong, ding, ding, ding,
yes,
ding.
That's right.
Whenever you are saying, hey, this is really good, you're not just saying, oh, it's all right. It's when you're saying, this is amazing, you should do it. It's a big endorsement.
Okay. We'll give you more examples in just a bit. Let's go ahead and listen to our food dialogue.
What happened? That's a pretty big bandage on your finger.
Well, it's a hands-on cooking class, and we were learning knife skills. The knife slipped and cut me.
That must have been a sharp knife.
On the contrary, it was really dull. That's why it slipped off the tomato instead of into it.
Despite your little accident, would you recommend this instructor?
I would definitely give him a ringing endorsement. And he also teaches advanced classes for someone with your experience. Maybe we can take it together.
Here we go. The cooking class. That must have been a sharp knife. Melinda says, what happened? That's a pretty big bandage on your finger. Now, as you can see, 여러분, it's not bend, it's bandage. Is band Konglish?
So, a band would be like on your watch, right? That strap on your watch. You could say a watch band.
Yeah.
But usually when we're talking about 붕대, that would be your bandage that you have on you. So bandage, B-A-N-D-A-G-E.
Right. And sometimes it could be just a small little bandage that you put on your finger. Okay? Okay, so not bend. And Cyrus says, well, it's a hands-on cooking class, and we were learning knife skills. The knife slipped and cut me. Okay, so it's a hands-on cooking class. Now, if you describe a cooking class as being hands-on, what are you saying?
You're saying that you're actually cooking or making the food as you learn about it.
Yeah.
You're not in a classroom like studying through a book,
just
studying
giving
with
instruction.
a book, just getting instruction, memorizing recipes.
Right.
You're actually cutting the vegetables and hitting the meat.
Tenderizing.
Tenderizing. When you take that hammer, right, and you hit the...
Especially like tonkatsu,
tenderizing it,
Right.
So you're actually doing the actions to make the food. We could say that's a hands-on cooking class.
That's right.
And I think for cooking, it usually is.
It usually is, right? Okay, so then what does Melinda say?
That must have been a sharp knife.
Okay, so Cyrus cut his finger. And Melinda says, "Oh, that must have been." And that is our power pattern.
Yeah.
That must have been.
Yeah.
How do we use this pattern?
We use this pattern when we see something or we hear something and we're making a comment on it. And it's usually like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of surprise or amazement for what they're seeing. In this case, Belinda is looking at Cyrus's finger and saying, wow, your finger is hurt. That must have been a sharp knife.
Yeah.
Because it did a lot of damage.
Right. So based on what you see, based on what you hear, you're commenting on that, saying, oh, it was a sharp knife. Or you could say, oh, that must have been incredible. Like you just listened to a story.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, that must have been great.
That must have been so much fun.
So much fun.
So this can be both negative and positive in its usage.
Yeah, that must have been heartbreaking, right? So you're commenting on what the other person has said or has done.
Yes.
Cyrus says, on the contrary, it was really dull. That's why it slipped off the tomato instead of onto it. Okay. So, sharp.
Yes.
Dull.
Yeah.
D-U-L-L. This is how we, usually the most common words to describe a knife.
Yeah, so sharp, of course, is whenever it cuts very easily. Dull is the opposite, where it does not cut easily. So, 무뎠다.
Yes.
무뎠다, right? So, it's, some knives, you know how like whenever you're doing like 회, you have a really sharp knife?
Yeah.
But then you try and do it with a dull knife.
Oh.
And
it's more dangerous.
You just destroy the fish, essentially.
You know why dull knives can be more dangerous is that you put too much more pressure. And so a sharper knife, actually you would think, right, causes more accidents. But if you have a dull knife, you're like, and then in that process.
That makes sense. And it's not as clean of a cut.
Right.
It's not like a straight line.
Okay. So on the contrary, it was dull. So Melinda says, wow, it must have been sharp. It must have been a sharp knife. And then Cyrus says, on the contrary, which is?
No. The opposite.
The opposite.
Yes. So we use on the contrary when we're going to introduce the opposite of what you would expect or the opposite of what you have just said.
And I think this is usually in spoken language to say like, no, it's the opposite. No, on the contrary.
Yeah, on the contrary.
Yeah.
Some people, I have heard it used just there. Like, don't even finish the idea.
Okay.
So Melinda might say,
that
was a really sharp knife. On the contrary.
Good.
I
Okay.
have heard it like that.
Yeah,
usually you do finish the idea, but sometimes they just say, no, it was the opposite.
Yeah, it was the opposite. And instead of saying it was the opposite, if you say on the contrary, it sounds more sophisticated.
Yeah, like you're in Kingsman.
On the contrary.
On the contrary.
Yes, that's right. Okay, Melinda says, despite your little accident, would you recommend this instructor?
Yes, and then Cyrus answers with, I would definitely give him a ringing endorsement. And he also teaches advanced classes for someone with your experience. Maybe we can take it together.
So, Cameron, when we hear the word endorsement, we hear this in politics.
Oh, yeah.
We hear this with like advertisements, endorsement. So it's kind of like you're supporting.
Yeah, it's support or saying this is good.
This is good.
You should do it too.
That's right.
Yeah.
A lot of social media influencers get endorsements.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
But in this case, it doesn't seem like it has anything to do with advertisements or politics. What is he saying?
So this is endorsing his teacher, meaning I think this teacher is good.
Yeah.
And when you put ringing in front of it, it means a big endorsement. Right?
Yeah.
So this is always positive. A ringing endorsement is saying that this thing or this person or this service is so good. I will talk about it so enthusiastically.
I guess our listeners could use this expression with Power English.
Oh, yeah? I mean, they do all the time.
Yeah.
I see the social media posts.
That's right.
With the ringing endorsements for our show.
That's right. It's like, you got to study with Power English. It's one of the best.
Yes. We are very thankful for your ringing endorsements.
Yes, thank you so much. Let's go ahead and listen to that one more time.
What happened? That's a pretty big bandage on your finger.
Well, it's a hands-on cooking class, and we were learning knife skills. The knife slipped and cut me.
That must have been a sharp knife.
On the contrary, it was really dull. That's why it slipped off the tomato instead of into it.
Despite your little accident, would you recommend this instructor?
I would definitely give him a ringing endorsement. And he also teaches advanced classes for someone with your experience. Maybe we can take it together.
It's time for Power Note. Please join us on pages 106 and 107. Hands on. So you are actively participating. You are engaged. You roll up your sleeves and you get in there.
Yes.
Okay? What did you think about the candle making class?
It was great, especially the hands-on part where we made our own candles.
Yeah. If you make your own candles or make your own anything, it is obviously going to be a hands-on experience.
Yeah, and they have those like one-day classes now. I'm seeing a lot.
Yeah.
I saw one for
Candle
candles,
making?
like a one, and they have the like jar candles.
Yeah.
But they had another one that was like the dip candles.
Ooh.
You know, like you take the string and you put it in the melted wax.
Cool.
It sounds really cool. I didn't do it.
You didn't
My
do
friend did it.
Okay.
But
that sounds actually fun.
yeah, like those little one-day classes where you just get to experience something.
Yeah, absolutely. I learn better with a hands-on teaching method. So if you describe a teacher who is hands-on in the class, what kind of teacher is that?
So this can be two things, actually.
Okay.
So the first is the more literal meaning where, like, it's a math class, and so the teacher has little, like, pieces that the students get to touch.
Yeah.
And they're learning like how to add and subtract with the pieces.
Right.
That can be hands-on. But there is a second meaning where it's active. So this would mean that the teacher is like focusing on the students, not just standing up in the classroom and like teaching, listen to what I say, but going to each student.
Engaging.
Yeah, checking their work. Oh, I see you have a hard time with fractions. Come here, let's work on fractions together for a second.
Yeah.
So in that meaning, you can also use it for something like hands-on parenting.
All the time.
Right?
Yeah.
We hear this a lot, and it's where you are active in raising your child.
Yeah.
Where you're not just sending them to school and bringing them home.
Or have a najima or a nanny take care of them all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
You're there at home, like checking on their homework, teaching them life skills.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
Teach them how to tie their shoes and to like cook simple dishes. Like do all these a more active approach in your parenting.
That's right. Absolutely. Seriously, for 4 years, I did not work, Cameron. Can you imagine? I did not work for 4 years because I was raising my son.
Yeah. I mean, I think that like depending on the generation, depending on what country you live in, there are varying levels of like how hands-on you are, right?
That's right.
But that's great to have that time with your child.
Absolutely. I mean, I was very lucky that I could do that.
Yeah.
Okay, on the contrary means, it's the opposite of what you just said. Do you want me to wave at that car to stop and help us with the flat tire?
On the contrary, I'd rather not waste time talking to people when I can fix it myself.
Okay, so should we get some help? Oh, no.
No.
Oh,
That's
on the
opposite.
contrary,
Yeah.
I can do it. Okay. Do you know how to fix a tire?
I have done it.
Oh, you have?
I haven't done it in a while. But yeah, I used to.
Yeah.
I've done it. But I used to work with, my dad. He was very hands-on in his parenting.
Oh, he was.
So anytime there was a problem with a car,
he would teach you?
I had to go out and help him because he wanted me to
learn.
So I knew how to check the oil and
wow.
change tires around because you have to flip the tires, right?
Sure, of course.
Yeah. So I know how to do some basic stuff.
Right. I think in America, because we're such a car-driven kind of culture, that a lot of people know certain things. You know, kind of hands-on with their car.
Yeah, I think it's getting harder because the cars are more complex. Like, it's so much more computer stuff now, right?
Right.
Yeah.
On the contrary, some species of cacti can thrive in cold climates. So I feel the other person said, cacti, they only live in warm, desert, right?
No, on the contrary. There's some that live in the cold.
Yeah. It's interesting because people think that the desert is only hot. But actually, at night, It can get very cold.
Cold. Well, I think technically Antarctica is the biggest desert.
Oh,
one of them.
Technically.
Because it's cold, but it also doesn't rain. Like there's it doesn't really snow or rain.
Yeah. Interesting.
So one of the biggest deserts. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So on the contrary, it's like, no.
Opposite of what you think.
Yeah, opposite. A ringing endorsement is basically a very strong, sort of supportive, enthusiastic statement saying, yeah, that's really good. You should try it. Oh, I love this. You should do it.
It's like a recommendation.
Yeah, that's right. Did you talk to my previous employer? I left on very good terms with him.
Yes, and he gave you a ringing endorsement.
You know, you move jobs, and it's good to have a good recommendation.
Yeah.
I guess this is another way of saying a good recommendation, a ringing endorsement.
Yes.
The older actor gave the young director a ringing endorsement on the TV talk show.
So this is where the older actor, maybe everyone knows them.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
But then this young director is new. So the old famous actor is going on this talk show and saying, you know, he's young.
Yeah, but he's great.
He's so great.
Right.
He's such an artist. I hope he does great things in the future. Kind of a way to kind of help his career, right? His or her, you know,
That's
young
right.
director.
All right. Power pattern is that must have been. So based on what you heard, based on what the other person did, right? You're like, oh, wow, this is your reaction. So for instance, that must have been a rough ride.
Your hair is all messed up and your face is pale.
Yeah, that's right.
That must have been a difficult test. Everyone failed.
Yeah, it was 5 hours long.
No one passed.
Yeah, that's right. That must have been hard.
Wow.
Okay, power vocab, great word, dull. Okay, budin, right?
Yes.
When we talk about knives. And do check out the definition on page 108. And what should our listeners do?
Please go to Audio Hakdang, and for a small, tiny, little monthly fee,
okay, little.
you can listen to this show and so many other great shows here from EBS.
Okay, and we also want to remind everyone that we will be going live today at 6 p.m. on Evening Special. So we hope to see you there. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.